Thank you for waiting. Next up is Pharma panel. Opportunities for collaboration with global venture capital. First, let me introduce the speakers on the stage. First, the moderator for this panel discussion is Dr. Toru J. Seo, CEO of KK Newsite Tech Angels.
Thank you.
The panelists are Ms. Eriha Dekura, Head of License Department, Vice President, License Department at Tanabe Pharma Corporation. Dr. Kazuhiro Onuma, Research Manager, Drug Discovery Group 2, Pharmaceutical Research Laboratory, Pharmaceutical Division at UBE Corporation. Dr. Seiichi Inamura, Director of Partnering at Chugai Pharma USA. Lastly, Mr. Yasuhito Yasogi, Manager, BD and License Department, Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Research Management Department at Teijin Pharma. Now, Dr. Seo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I see some familiar faces, and for those of you who don't know me, my name is Toru J. Seo. I'm the CEO of Newsite Tech Angels, and first of all, welcome to Japan for those who came from the outside of Japan, and for those with familiar faces, it's very good to see you. And I have to say, everybody's so tense. Why don't we just relax a bit? And just relax. And that's why I'm wearing a leather jacket instead of instead of ties. But what we like to do for the next 1 hour is to introduce you some of the activities that many pharma, Japanese pharma in particular, are engaged in terms of maximizing their internal assets, how they can leverage their internal assets to utilize external parties. That could be a venture capitals, that could be the biotechs, both in Japan and outside of Japan. And we want to really deep dive, what are the strategies, what are the challenges, and what we could do from the in a future prospect. And hopefully we can cover some of those. Obviously, 1 hour is not sufficient, as you can imagine, but I will try to deep dive as much as possible, and also to address perhaps some of your concerns. So with that, I was told that you each have 3 minutes introduction. Is that correct? So we can probably start with a lady over here from Tanabe Pharma.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this such kind of great symposium. My name is Eriha Dekura. I'm head of license department of Tanabe Pharma. I briefly introduce about our corporate overview. As you can see, as you may know, Tanabe was the second oldest pharmaceutical in the world and founded in 1678. But last year, we entered a new chapter, and we are part of Bain Capital portfolio. It's making so major turning point for our company. Along with this, we also invited a new CEO, Dr. Harada. He's now leading our clear transformation toward first transformation and innovation and external partnership. Historically, Tanabe Pharma has consistently created innovation medicine. As you can see, the first-in-class drug, we out-licensed in early phase to the global pharma, Janssen and Novartis, and these two drugs already grown in the blockbuster in medicine in the world. In the best-in-class asset, we have already partnered with leading VC, for example, such as Hobion and Catalyst Pacific, and they have created a new core. In the new core, our asset is already reached the phase 3 or already reached to the NDA. So this is demonstrating our ability to value to make our value beyond our internal development. Today, our internal research is now focusing on the neuroscience and immunology, inflammation, and oncology area. As you can see, the Radicava is shown in gray here. Last year, we sold Radicava to Shionogi last December. This event also brings us the key turning point for our company, and we have already focusing on the some shift to the more Japan-focusing research model. Another key element is MT, Healthcare Venture Management. Its MPH is our wholly owned subsidiary AMED certified venture firm. Through MPH, we can closely connect to the innovation academia and startup and investors. Yeah, this is my last slide. Yeah, we actively pursue flexible win and win of innovation in many ways, especially for the new core approach is our key pillar of Tanabe Pharma for future innovation strategy. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you for time today. My name is Kazuhiro Onuma. I'm a research manager of UB Corporation. I'm very honored to be here and great pleasure to introduce our company today. So UB Corporation was founded about 130 years ago in Ube City, Yamaguchi Prefecture. And actually, we are not a pharmaceutical company, but a chemical company. We are engaged in the drug discovery as part of the specialty chemical business for more than 30 years. And we have GMP compliant manufacturing facilities, but we don't have any capabilities to conduct a clinical trial. So our business model involves licensing our asset to the pharmaceutical companies. So this is our basic business model. And we have successfully identified the drugs such as Talion, Calbroc, Abelis, and Effient so far. But recently, this model is changing. For example, we introduced our asset to the drug discovery incubators or startups, which secure the external funding to conduct the early clinical trial for POC. Or we are also considering establishing a new core to proceed with the development by using ecosystem. Anyway, rather than the licensing out to the pharmaceutical companies, the strategy has shifted towards collaborating with these companies, these like external partners, to maximize the value of our asset, and then approaching pharma. From the research perspective, we focus a small molecular drug based on our chemistry before. But recently, we are exploring the new modalities like ADC, antibody drug conjugate, or TPD, targeted protein degrader. And as you know, these modalities require the integration of the different areas of the expertise. So the collaboration with these external partners is becoming more important. And of course, to establish a new core with these partners is one of the attractive options for us. Anyway, I'm looking forward to discussing about our recent activities today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Seiji Namura, and I'm director of Chugai Pharma in US and partnering US. I'm trying to explain first how Chugai is. So Chugai is one of the group company of Roche Group, and this slide summarizing our key financial performance last year. I don't want to get into the detail, but I just wanted to highlight that Chugai is, as for the market cap, the highest in Japan pharmaceutical industry, and it's a little bit comparable to the global big pharmas. And on the right-hand side, you can see how Chugai is working together with Roche, Genentech, or other Roche group. Chugai out-licensed to our product to Genentech Roche, and when they would like to come to Japan territory, we in-license from them. And I also wanted to touch upon how Chugai is trying to be unique from the other pharma companies. One is we focusing on a target-driven drug discovery, which means we are trying to establish platform technology which allow us to create molecule and then apply into different disease area, which is rather difficult to create molecule, and it ends up we can create differentiated product like Hemlibra, Alecensa, and so on. And one other point that we would like to differentiate ourselves is we are doing quality-centric drug discovery approach. It's a little bit busy slide, but we are very much focusing on, based on our culture, to prioritize the quality of the drug candidates, how to improve them. And our systematic platform to enable high efficient and also allow us to accelerate the design product, evaluate cycle, and so on and so forth. So based on this quality-centric approach, sometimes it takes a little bit longer time than the other program or other pharma company. However, there is 100% success rate in the phase 3 trial, 11 out of 11 Chugai original product, either developed by ourselves or Roche Group or a partner company. So this is summarizing how we delivered our product or innovative drugs to the world. And the Chugai's value proposition is creating a good drug, and we want it to be in that capability, and we are happy to share some part of our activities during this session. Thank you.
I'm Yasuhito Yasugi, so let me introduce Teijin Pharma. This is corporate data of Teijin Limited. Teijin Limited is a conglomerate company that operates a wide range of business fields, not limited to healthcare. Revenue in 2024 was $6,572 million, and operating income was $180 million. Healthcare business occupied 14% of revenue, and most of revenue in healthcare was generated by Teijin Pharma. This slide showed R&D structure utilizing the drug discovery ecosystem. Through collaboration with academia, startup, and mid-sized and large-sized pharmaceutical company, we are trying to improve the efficiency and the speed of drug discovery. So I will show you a specific example regarding an external partnership based on our recent deal record in the next slide. This is our recent deal records. For profit generation, we have entered into license agreement with Novartis or Bioproject or Herbal Medicine for the past 3 consecutive years to facilitate drug as we have been taking an early alliance strategy, and that means all our internal projects should find a partner before IND enabling study, and therefore facilitating facilitating of our internal drug discovery project and enhancing the value in early stage are very important for future licensing opportunity. To facilitate our discovery project, we have made strategic R&D collaboration agreement with Translator, which is Chinese biotech, and also we have made co-development agreement with Ictos, which is French startups. So through external partnerships, we are driving a cycle of drug discovery and profit generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nice presentation, everyone. So a lot of topics that you covered was obviously you have a lot of fantastic drug pipelines, but another key term was externalizations as well as collaborations, and most of which are the externalizations. So that will be the topic of today's discussions. And this was actually the first time I saw all these slides. So I'm just as you are. So I just want to set the ground for everyone to move forward. And our lab always makes more interesting. So let me ask you the questions first. And please limit your answers within 1 minute so that I can ask more questions. But in terms of your strategy, how do you evaluate your internal assets, some of which you take into the market, versus collaboration assets, so to speak, or something that you either license out, something that you either externalize it? How do you make decisions whether to do internally or whether to do externally? And if you decide to do externally, obviously, in many pharmaceutical companies, whatever you do internally is fit for the internal purpose. But when you do externalize, you probably have to do something value added. Do you have a separate group to work on that, either at the R&D levels or at the business development levels? If you could answer some of those, in sort of and summarize the strategy and the prioritizations and how you evaluate once you decided to take it outside of the company. Maybe we can start from this side.
Thank you very much for your question. We are thinking first about R&D strategy fits and budget and FTE allocation. So many times budget limitation is very big for us. In cases the budget is secured not secure as a sum of the project, it's mainly focusing on non-core asset mainly. In that case, we are exploring about the external partnership. In that case, we need to evaluate about the value. What is the value? What is the advantage for another product, and or the differentiation point for other product and the competitiveness of others. That kind of 3 pillars is important for us.
So in our case, since we don't have any capability to conduct a clinical trial by ourselves, so actually all of the assets are the subject for licensing out. But we need to maximize the value of our asset, of course, before the licensing out. So in that case, now we are collaborating with some like drug discovery incubators to find a new indication, or to make a new differentiation point, or anyway, before licensing out, we conduct such kind of a collaboration, and also same as academia. Sometimes, for example, in ADC, antibody drug conjugate, we have the link and payload asset. But link and payload is just a part of the ADC. So we need to find some like a collaborator before the licensing out. So in that case, we need to find some like the partner which have the antibody. So anyway, I think it's case by case. But before licensing out, we try to, maximize the value. Yeah. Thank you.
So how do you do that? When you say value added, how do you work around? Who actually make decisions? Who actually work on the values, additional values, or potential additional values?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, that is the licensee. So, when we start the licensing out activity, at that time, we can know that. Before licensing out activity, of course, we judged internally, but usually, it's just internally. So,
I see. And you mentioned about licensee. So, because the reason I'm coming this is very important. So you said licensee. So the licensee will come up with the value propositions, which I would think is the typical case. We will be able to add this. We'll be able to add to this. We can maximize your assets to this bigger market or whatever. I guess that's the sort of a standard. Is that general idea?
Yeah, always, they require so many points. So in that case, we discuss very deeply, and we should focus some truly important point, and we should follow these points. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I will come back to that actually.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Okay.
In the case of Chugai, the limit is Chugai as a Roche Group company. We are always thinking about how the product we create is going to present it to Roche. And if Roche decided not to take it in, we have to seek for the potential partner, because we are not conducting, right now, we are not conducting a global phase 3 by ourselves. So every product that we are starting from the basic research, thinking about make a maximum of the packaging, which will be applicable for the global big pharmas. That's why once Roche declined, we seek for the third-party partner, like Lilly acquired our orforglipron, and it happens. And so basic research, disease area agnostic approach, however, considering always how to create the package for out-licensing. And we have a team in the business development for the out-licensing, and this person is already assigned when it is closely coming to the clinical development, and always thinking about how to out-license.
Yeah, in Teijin case, as I mentioned, now we are taking an early alliance strategy. Therefore, our discovery asset should find a partner before IND enabling study. So the common reason of discontinuation is scientific difficulties or failure to find an appropriate partner to continue the development. So through external partnership with academia or startup or something like that, so we create the value of our internal asset. And honestly speaking, in our business model, prioritization of our internal asset and external collaboration get along with each other.
Thank you. So let me come back to some of the points that some of you have alluded. So some of you worked more on the early stage opportunities, and many of you, I assume, will be the late stage, right? Do your team or as a whole company share the strategies between early stage and late stage, and how do you balance it within your company? Not you per se, but in terms of a whole entire company. How do you balance early up? Because obviously the early opportunity tends to die off with higher percentage than late stage assets. So how do you balance within your company in terms of when to do the early assets and when to do the late stage assets. Mhm.
Yeah, as I mentioned about, we are umbrella company for the pain portfolio at this moment. After that, we are so big shift change to the R&D. So that at this moment, 90% of out-license opportunities are early stage. The 10% is later stage, but most of all is early stage.
Okay, thank you.
In our case, all of asset is in the early stage, so we don't have any such kind of criteria.
Okay.
So at Chugai, basically we are not doing out license in the early stage because we would like to increase the value of the program by adding the clinical data. But there is also sometimes we already know this is out of the scope of Roche Group and in the same time out of Chugai's scope. Because it happens because research is doing disease agnostic approach and doing the best biology behind the disease. So,
Okay. Thank you.
So as I mentioned, we are taking our year-end strategy. So, however, in our discovery project have a difficulty such as relevance to demonstrate relevance to human, or there are large species differences. In this case, we would select move forward to clinical stage.
I see. So let me come back to the earlier points that we discussed. So when you prioritize or when you make decisions whether to continue internally or whether to externalize, do you have two questions in one? Do you have any external party involved for the evaluation? You know, whether that being venture capitalist, or whether that being an analyst or economist in some cases, perhaps. Do you have these people involved for the decisions? And if so, when do they participate? Because I think that's very relevant to some of the audience today. Whether you do everything internally, or you involve external parties, and if that's the case, when do you engage them? I know this is a little bit different from the question I asked,
okay,
but I think this is important.
In the typical case, we have not involved some other external people in our evaluation for going further internally or externally. After we decided, we find an external party that we ask some consultant to support to find out a good company to fit our portfolio. That's our current situation. Yeah.
In our case, so as I mentioned that we have some, like a collaboration with the drug discovery incubator, and they evaluate our compound by their own way in the preclinical stage. And based on that data, they judged. And after that, they decided to make a contract or not. And also, same as Tanabe Pharma-san, we also have some consultant, but he didn't have the right to judge. So he just, make an opinion for us. Yeah.
Support.
Oh, so just support. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I think it's the same case as Chugai. So why we have to do the external out license is decision by Chugai, and how and what could be supported by consultant or sometimes VC companies to maximize how we can maximize the value.
Okay, thank you.
We have operated corporate venture capital in United States, and therefore we have a chance to receive advice from investors' perspective and incorporate it to our project plan.
I see. Thank you very much. So that is the part I actually wanted to ask. At least in my experience, when I work on out licensing opportunities, whether that be in a biotech or a medium-sized pharma, for example, at least in the United States, they usually have a venture capitalist involved because they want to evaluate the assets on their own term, so to speak. But the way I understood from your response that you don't have these people involved in most cases, right? Do you plan to get them involved in the future, or do you have any discussions to involve these people? The reason I'm asking this is the ecosystem is dynamic and changing very rapidly. In Japan now we have a venture ecosystem, which was, I think, was topic in the previous discussions. And a lot of venture capitalists are interested here in Japan. And they are definitely interested in perhaps more mature assets, reside within the company. Unfortunately, I don't think there has been a lot of communications between venture capitalists and pharma, that deep. And I wonder if you have any strategy plan to involve them, or you have anything that's ongoing. Of course, within the limitation of what you can disclose, if you can share some of those ideas, that would be great.
Yeah, as I mentioned about that, we have now the early stage asset, try to out-license. This is my role. I have already communicated with so many CBC about but that out-license as an out-license partner candidate, not our supporting member at this moment. I'm not imagining about how to good of thing to us to incorporate the VC member before we cannot decide everything. I don't know what's the good opportunity for us. I don't know.
Same as us. I think we are still finding our way. So actually, it's hard to say. But we have no choice to move forward with these partners. So maybe we should find some other way. But sorry, now I don't have any idea.
I was considering that you mentioned about those startup companies always backed by VC companies, and there is already support to how to out-license. But in the same time, maybe there is a kind of pressure to monetize or value up the program as early as possible. So this kind of a pressure, if it applies to Chugai, it reduces our capability of creating a good molecule. And I think this is the basic understanding within Chugai. If it requires time to create a good molecule based on the quality-centric approach, so our management will take as much as time as much as possible. So basically, we also have some kind of initiative going on how we can maximize the value and also the time cost manner, but not the idea to consult with external parties.
Okay, thank you.
So in Teijin's case, as I mentioned, we have entered into license agreement with Medicine. The company is a VC-backed new company. So therefore, they raised $70 million in Series A financing last year. So therefore, we have a relationship with Elbar Medicine and also their investors. Therefore, we have a chance to talk with them easily.
I see. Thank you. So some of you have had experience, working with venture capitals and all that. At the same time, many of you have CVC arms within the company or something similar to CVCs. Obviously, the CVC wants to align with the company's strategies and possibly to incorporate some of the pipelines. But when that comes, right, and now I'm sort of shifting toward the CVC idea. When that comes, drug discovery by nature is a global business, and just doing in Japan alone these days are not sustainable, as everybody probably can see. So it has to be global, namely United States, Europe, and China, for example. When that happens, I would think a lot of when you start thinking about externalizations, a lot of these guys are very interested to discuss with you. Have you been approached, not you per se, but as a company, have you been approached by, when you're working within a CVC arm, have any venture capitalists or have any funding agency approached you to collaborate with you for company creations or something to new co-creations, for example, in the United States or in Japan too? If you can share some idea or your experience or a potential idea that you may have, that will be very, very interesting, I think, again, among the audience.
Yeah, previously we have already experienced about NewCo, created VC, partnering with Catalyst Pacific and Forbion. And these two new co-company, Mineralis and New Amsterdam Pharma, is successfully moved forward the later stage. Such a collaboration is very effective and very, very positive view of our company. So we are very welcome to exploring this kind of VC created new development. For the early stage asset is very difficult, very different from the phase 1 or later stage assets because we don't have any clinical data. That is very important for set up a new for the VC. That we don't have any clinical data. We have only good non-clinical data only. In that case, it is very difficult to pursue the new creation or carve out and spin out. Currently, I'm thinking about this.
Unfortunately, we don't have any experience to create a new core, but now we are discussing with our collaboration partners to do it. But they try to proceed with clinical trial, and maybe we need some clinical data, and after that maybe we should consider it. Yeah.
I think recently we also received several approach for potential spin out and create company based on our product. But so far it's not happened yet, but it doesn't mean that we are excluding this kind of opportunity. We have lots of platform technology which allow us to create more program, more products. So we are always happy to communicate in this sense.
So now we are seeking any opportunity by any licensing scheme, any partnering scheme, such as new co-creation, project finance, and the straight license. So as I mentioned, we have experience to collaborate with Elbar Medicine, and that's a new co-creation model. So and we are continue to more case to make a more case for any licensing partnering scheme.
I see. Thank you. Yeah, so I know there are a lot of challenges. Well, we'll come back to it, and there seems to be some still remaining the conservatism, right, among the pharma. I mean, that's not only in Japan, but everywhere else. So how do we mitigate this? And one of the options is, of course, to dive into the earlier opportunities, with perhaps less probability of success, but, so-called open innovation, which I don't like to use these days because it's 30 years or 20 years old. But, the open innovation is changing, and it's a very important scheme. And some of you alluded on academic opportunities and possibly going to the NUCO. And some of your CVC arms are actually reaching out the academic startups, for example, all right? Can you give a little example or your experience on success story of working with academic opportunities through the open innovations, and maybe some failure if you ever had one, and then what was the issues when it comes to the failure, because again I want to follow up this questions after that, but why don't we just start with your experience on the success and the failure of open innovation? Yes, primarily in academics.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we don't have any experience for that with academia partnership because I'm busy. I'm mainly partnering with VC or Pharma, so that I don't have an exact example at this moment. Sorry.
In our case, we have successfully licensed out our asset to some venture capital, the startup, which from the university. And before the license out, we conduct the collaboration research with them, and they have the some specific animal model for the rare disease, or to evaluate some specific very very difficult parameter to measure. But anyway, usually they provide us the novel technology or knowledge we lacked, and after that we can make the the candidate for the development. So yeah, actually we have some kind of cases. Thank you.
So in the case of Chugai, actually Chugai is very much inward-looking company and doing everything by yourself. And slowly these 2-3 years, we trying to collaborate with external parties, and including academia. So even though we have long collaboration or long research activity with Osaka University and other Japanese academia, but I think it's early to say whether it is failure or successful because it takes a lot of time. And now we just started real external collaboration. So in few years, we can say something like that.
So we have one success story. So we have licensed out our antibody to Merck. So the antibody was generated by collaboration with Japanese academia.
Thank you. So one of the reasons I ask this is I have seen many VC-supported startups who are looking for asset acquisitions, primarily from pharma because they have a better probability of success. And some of that seems to be coming to Japan, or at least I heard some of that is ongoing. What is your involvement thus far in that scenario, whether you take a lead or the VC take a lead to create the companies to leverage your assets, your internal assets? Have you had any of those experience, or do you have anything in the plan, or you can't disclose? Well, I guess it doesn't have to be academia. It's a VC-backed startups. Could be the existing startup that VC infused the capitals to acquire more assets, or the VC takes a lead to create the company to acquire assets. That seems to be was quite common, at least in my time, for the multinational companies. And I wonder whether you have that in plan, or you are doing something similar, or you're doing something in that line. I know the question is getting harder and harder, but that's the purpose of my purpose is to cool you down so that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I have already explained about the two VC created new model. It's successful. So at this moment we are thinking about the same way. Maybe it's successful, but we need to try to another model. So very early stage asset to the carve out and the spin out model with a VC. That's currently our idea, but maybe it is a little bit harder for them because early asset is before the value inflection point, far from there. So most of VCs hesitate to investment that kind of asset. That's our hurdle.
Thank you.
Now, we don't have any experience, unfortunately, but after the evaluation by the drug discovery incubator or the development with the startups, once we get the early early POC, proof of concept, or the safety data in human, we try to consider about creating the new code with this VC or some other by using the public funding or something like that. Yeah, anyway, just now, sorry, we don't have any specific activity. Yeah.
And also, Chugai, there is no a real outcome with this kind of activities. But as I mentioned, we are not excluding the discussion opportunities.
Okay.
So in my experience, a partnership with Cerebral Medicine, which is VC-backed new company. So CEO and investor took a lead for new co-creation. However, in our case, we had prepared a clinical trial together with Cerebral Medicine before the execution of license agreement. To say other words, we used resources each other before the agreement. So in this case, we would say Teijin act like a founder. Yeah.
I see. Thank you. So it seems that many of you and your company wants to do something new, again, involving external parties, whether that be the VCs or the startups, whether in Japan or outside. Obviously, that definitely is one strategy for future. But I want to come back to but at the same time, many of you said, "Oh, we are thinking, but it's not really getting there. We still have to wait this and that." I fully understand that, and in a condition you can't make the decisions immediately. But doing this, I would assume for several years or maybe a decade. What is the bottleneck? What's bothering you? Not you per se, your company, to actually engage in that business model? What is the bottleneck? Could that be a slow decision making, or conservatism, or entrenched management view? There are maybe silos from R&D to the business development. I'm sure there are many opportunities, but what do you think is the bottleneck here?
Yeah, I think internal approach mindset in Japanese jimai shugi. This leads us very slow progress. In case the very slow progress in some of asset, just in case, we prioritize our internal development, internal research is we prioritize. In that case, we miss the chance to find a good partner and good progress with a VC or as a partner. We miss the chance at that case.
For us, it's just simply matters of the resources in terms of the like personnel or the budget. Because UB Corporation is one of the biggest chemical company, but our pharmaceutical division, especially the pharmaceutical laboratory, is kind of a very small organization. So we need to make everything within our resources. So hopefully in the future we can change this situation. But thank you.
Okay.
The bottleneck, I think the mindset is very important. And as I mentioned, Chugai was and maybe still a part of it is very much inward looking and not invented here or do not want to let the other company or other party to develop our program because we know the molecule the best. But slowly, since we are creating platform technology and allow us to create a lot of program, we are also thinking about utilize external parties' expertise and also the budget, human resource as well, and try to bring our program as much as possible to the patient, so we are not excluding. But
okay.
So in my opinion, a bottleneck is risk tolerance derived from siloed organizations. Some functions or departments exist in parallel and independently. Therefore, they are focusing on reducing its own risk. Consequently, out of risk come up. However, driving project rely on the individual capability of a main person or project leader. So what I want to say is risk tolerance derived from imbalance between driving force and braking force.
Thank you. So we have 7 and 35 minutes left, and I want to secure enough time to get the inputs from audience or Q&A from audience. But with all the discussions, we can continue for hours. But I want to address, I want to ask questions. Our last question would be a future prospect. So what is what do you recommend given the current conditions and the things that you have worked for decades or more in terms of open innovations or the collaboration, externalization? What do you recommend as a next step for your company, if you can mention, and also as a whole in terms of this entire ecosystem, and particularly in Japan, you being in the Japanese pharmaceutical companies, what would you recommend for your companies and an entire ecosystem to grow and thrive?
Yeah, I think most important is to find a good asset and a good project is find out in a company, and if the project is not appropriate in internally process, as soon as possible we can find a partner. This is not for the company people, but for the patient. Yeah, for the patient is a good opportunity, is a less competitive one, is a less market is less. So that I think we can find which is a good opportunity, which is a good asset, internally or externally, and find a good partner. A partner means ourselves or other in both, and move forward quickly. It's the best way for us. And to make a win-and-win partnership with a company and VC It's the most important thing.
For us, I think, proactive disclosure of information as long as we can. I think especially our strength is chemistry. It's not only the CMC, but also the research part. And I think, to disclose our specialty and to find the new collaborator or, new partners to activate the ecosystem. I think that one is our one of the, our option, I think. Yeah.
So perspective for Chugai potential future externalization of a program is, yes, first of all, the mindset change in Chugai, but it's slowly happening based on the circumstance at this moment. And I don't know what could be a better kind of advice for a VC company or potential partner with Chugai. I just wanted to say, please believe us that we are very much happy to collaborate with external party, but since we are working on based on the craftsmanship and there is no compromise of creating molecule, that's why it takes time. And sometimes we decline the proposal. However, we are always open for this collaboration.
In my opinion, so I would like to recommend proactive information disclosure and active outreach to potential partners. So, we are always flooded with information. So it's easy to find something specific when someone is looking for it. However, it's hard to find potential opportunity or hidden value. Therefore, active action is important.
Very nice. I'd like to solicit a couple of questions from our audience, whether it's in Japanese, English, doesn't really matter. If anyone has any questions or insights that you want to share? No? Wow, amazing. Well, in that case, let me ask you the question. So you said, you do understand the changes. You do understand the need for changes. And you have a lot of wonderful, I assume you have a lot of wonderful assets that can potentially be outsourced or externalized to be leveraged by a other company, the carved out model. And do you think the stakeholders, external stakeholders, whether that being the US startups, it doesn't have to be US, the startups, venture capitals or accelerators, do you think their participation will help your company to grow and also to maximize your internal assets, for your company, I guess? Do you think that will be a possibility?
Yeah, it's very important for us to grow up our company. We are not thinking about without any supporter like the VC startup in the academia. I believe it's very effective for us.
All of our assets are in the very early stage. So, the translation research or the early clinical trial development, such kind of part, we definitely require the support. So, I think some company can support that part. It's very helpful for us.
So it is absolutely important, and we are always happy to communicate with potential partner, potential out licensee or collaborators, and yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, so I have the same opinion. So partnership with academia is or startup very important for us. So especially so co-creation model with academia or startup important.
Okay, thank you. So the last chance from audience. No questions? Oh, okay. In that case, I guess everybody's a little tired. So in that case, please give a round of applause for wonderful panelists, for wonderful discussions, and thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Seo and all the panelists. Please give the speakers a big round of applause again. This concludes the pharmaceutical company's panel discussion.